My husband sent me a TikTok about marriage the other day, and it made me cry. Not because it was sad, but because I just love him so much that the idea of not being married to him in heaven just genuinely broke my heart. Did you know that we won't be married in heaven? I did. And I used to be sad about that before I even had a husband. I don't know why, but I was like, once I find my person, the idea that I'm not going to be married to them in heaven is just too much for me to bear. But I guess once I got married, I just kind of forgot about it. And so him sending me that TikTok just reminded me again, and my eyes started to tear up. And then I had this funny thought that made me feel better. I'm like, well, if Hezekiah can petition to the Lord, then maybe when me and my husband get to heaven, I can petition too. And then maybe we can be the first married couple in heaven, because I haven't accepted it yet. But after that funny thought, it also just made me really, really grateful for the gift of marriage. And it made me appreciate my husband even more. And ultimately, it just made me really thankful to God for calling me to marriage. Hi, I'm Felicia, and if you are new here on my channel, I document what it looks like to surrender an ambitious life to God and let Him lead it. Today, I just want to talk about marriage, and specifically what I've learned about it the closer that I've gotten with God, because what I understand now is just so much different from what I understood before. So first, I want to share something that I really wish someone had told me before I got married, because I think that it would have changed a lot about just how I showed up and just how I viewed marriage. We often hear so much about marriage just scrolling on our timelines and on social media in general, but oftentimes it's marriage as it relates to the world. And I've just found that a kingdom marriage, a marriage that is of God and that follows how God wants marriage to be, is a lot different. There are some of the same things that still apply, but there are a lot of things that are different. When I first got married, my whole framework was just, you love each other, you're compatible, they treat you right, and you're good. And I don't think that that's necessarily wrong. I just think that it's incomplete. One thing that I didn't understand is that marriage is a mirror. And it's not the kind that just only shows you your good angles with the good lighting, but it's the kind that shows you everything. It shows you the parts of yourself that maybe you've been avoiding. It shows you areas where you still have work to do. And it shows you maybe just the places where you're still developing yourself into who God is calling you to be. And a godly marriage to the right person will expose all of that, and not in a negative way, but just in a way to be able to stretch you and to help you grow. And that's something that I just didn't understand before. But here are some of the harder, but I would say necessary lessons that marriage teaches you. The first one is just real patience, because you're living with this whole other person who has their own rhythms. They have just their own way of doing things. And this person may come from a completely different background than you do. They are your equal, and they have equal say, or at least they should, in all of the major decisions in your life. And of course, vice versa. And I would also say, from a worldly standpoint, patience can sometimes only go so far. But when you look at it through the lens of just the fruits of the Spirit, the kind of patience that God teaches us, then you oftentimes are able to frame it differently on those hard days. And I would say that this is different from the patience, when you're a boyfriend and girlfriend, because if you take your covenant seriously, you can't just move out when he keeps leaving the toilet seat up, or because you just want to have your own space again. I would say the next thing is forgiveness, and not just the don't go to bed angry kind, but forgiveness in a much deeper sense. Forgiveness that says, I'm not going to hold against you something that I was upset about last week. I've really had to remind myself that I can't still be mad at my husband for something that he did yesterday or last week and hold it over his head, because I would not want for God to say to me, like, I'm not talking to you today because you didn't listen to me yesterday or because you did something that I didn't like last week. I want for God's mercy for me to be new every morning. So I have to be able to give that same thing to my husband. Next, I would say is happiness. Of course, we all want to be happy, and we should choose partners who we can be happy with and enjoy happiness with. But you also have to be able to deal with seasons that aren't just about what you want, and be able to make sacrifices that don't necessarily make you happy in that moment, but that might be for the good of your marriage. So this could be having to relocate, or I don't know, a lot of different reasons. But one thing that I've learned in marriage class at my church is that a Christian marriage is meant to make you holy, not just to make you happy. Because ultimately, our joy should come from the Lord, not from our spouse, not from ourselves, and definitely not from the world, because none of those things are perfect. And God is the only one that is. When your joy is just truly rooted in God, it makes it a lot easier to just navigate every season of life and every season of marriage. The last lesson that I would say is stewardship, because the Bible clearly outlines the roles of both husbands and of wives in marriage. God honors marriage, and he expects for us to honor it as well. Marriage, I would say, has just really taught me how to be a better steward over what God has given me. I've had to learn how to put my marriage first and how to make sure that I'm always giving it the time, the care, the love, and the attention that it requires to be able to grow and to be able to thrive. And I've had to learn how to still show up in marriage regardless of how busy I might be with being a business owner and just with all of the different hats that I wear, because God has called me to marriage with my husband for a reason, and it is my job to be able to steward it well. So that TikTok, I would say, from earlier just also reminded me of something that I've just kind of stopped noticing. I found that when things are going well in a marriage, you can just start to operate on autopilot because things are good, you're comfortable, and you stop noticing the little things that you noticed at the beginning. And that TikTok just reminded me that marriage is such a gift, and it is not a given, it is not a guarantee, but a gift and ultimately a calling. I would say that my husband is one of the best things that has happened in my life. He is my biggest supporter, and I've learned so much from him. He's helped me to grow into just an even better version of myself. And I just don't want to only recognize that every once in a while. I just really want to be someone who notices it every day. I know, I want to notice it in the mundane, and I want to be someone who just tends to my marriage and nurtures it and pours into it as much as I did. So when I saw that TikTok and it made me cry, it was just because the idea of just this specific version of us, husband and wife, this covenant that was just made for on this earth, it made me want to appreciate every single moment and not take any of it for granted. And I think just being reminded that marriage is finite is exactly what we need to be able to walk in it with more purpose, and to just stop waiting for the big moments to feel grateful and start feeling grateful just on a regular Tuesday with our person. And the ordinary moments are what I believe actually make the marriage. It's not the big wedding, it's not the ring, but just the fact that you can wake up to this person on a Sunday morning and have a good laugh with them. You can share an inside joke. You know that you have someone who would do anything for you. To have someone who will cover you in prayer and who will petition to God on your behalf. So if you're married, I would love for you to ask yourself, when is the last time you stopped on a regular day and just thought, I am so thankful to God for this person? not after a hard season, not during a big moment, just on an ordinary day. That's what I want to just be able to practice more of, gratitude just because and not needing a reason for it. And if you are believing God for a spouse, what you're praying for isn't just a companion. It is one of the most transformative relationships that God can place in your life, and it will grow you in ways that you cannot even anticipate, and it will show you yourself in ways that nothing else will. So do not rush it, do not settle. And when God gives it to you, just make sure that your marriage is built on the right foundation and that you are able to steward it and tend to it well, because it deserves to be nurtured. If any of this resonated, I have a whole playlist called Heart to Heart where I go deeper on topics such as faith, marriage, surrender, hearing from God, prayer, and just what it looks like to walk with God in your everyday life. I will leave the link to that playlist in the description. If you're not subscribed yet, I would love for you to join me on this journey of growing closer to Jesus. I post new videos every week, so I would love for you to subscribe if this aligns with you. As always, thank you so much for spending your time with me. I truly appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.